Hello duelists, it's Tombox here and welcome to MST.TV, and this is going to be all you need to know about pure True Dracos. This is going to be my initial stance on this, and this is basically all you really need to know about them at this point. Maybe you'll get updated later on, then there's probably more information, but this is what it stands for right now. And in this video we are going to go through a deck profile. We are also going to cover some of the things that you should be aware of if you are going to play this deck, and of course we just can't talk about that. We got to talk about some weaknesses, and I got maybe a bit of a small demo play as I was practicing and learning this deck. Alright, so first of all, let's get to know this deck a little bit better before we go into the profile. So what are the True Dracos? Well, the True Dracos basically is an archetype in Maximum Crisis, and it's the end of Masterpiece or Master Pendulum's journey. Basically journeyed through all the other archetypes of Ignite, Dynamist, and there is also Magic Spectres, except that now he's sharing his powers with, I guess, his brothers and sisters, his brethren, and they don't play like any of those archetypes. In fact, they kind of aren't even related. Maybe the artwork's related, but aside from that, they play more like monarchs. It is a tribute summon based deck with a mechanic unique to themselves, which is that they can tribute continuous spells and traps. And the deck does have a lot of continuous spells and traps for you to play with, and it does synergize very well as they contribute to board control. Tributing spells or not just tributing, but sending the spells from the field to the graveyard will trigger their effect to pop a spell trap on the field, and sending a trap will pop a monster. So that being said, they also have a lot of nice effects, which I'll go over in the deck profile. So I guess without further ado, let's start off by going into this deck profile. Before I say anything, this mat is brought to us by Imperium Duelist. Thank you for sending in this mat. I have done a review, and that's for another video. But for those that are only interested in a deck list, go skip right on ahead. I'm not gonna stop you. But for those that want explanations, well, I'm gonna go right into this. So starting off with Triple Boss Monster, we have Triple Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. This monster contributes spells and traps like all the other True Draco monsters. This one gains the effect of immunity of whatever it attributed. So if you attribute a spell, you gain immunity to spell and trap, then you can be immune to both spells and traps, or you can be immune to monster spell. So this is one of the two monsters that can actually gain immunity. The other ones do not gain immunity, so don't mistake in that. And the other boss monster in the deck would be that Metatron, the True Mech Soldier, True Draco Mech Soldier. I don't run him solely because kaijus are a thing and you require 3 tributes, so you can be immune to everything. So he's basically a Towers-esque monster. But this monster also gains the effect, when it is a tribute summon monster, it also has the effect where it can banish one of your continuous spells and traps in the graveyard, and you can target one card in the field and destroy that target. That is a quick effect that can be activated during either player's turn. So he's the main control, and he's also one of the biggest bodies, 2950 attack and defense. Really good body to stay alive in the game. Next up, we have his little brother, Dynamite Knuckle. He's one of your better starters, I would say. He's level 6 with 2500 attack, so pretty solid body overall. Of course, he requires 1 tribute, like all the True Dracos contribute spells of continuous spells and traps. If this guy is a tribute summon monster and your opponent activates an effect, you can activate, get this, activate a trap card out of the deck. Activate a continuous True Draco trap card out of the deck, or True King trap card. So normally if you already have 1 trap card available, you would search the other. But normally you would probably want True King Revival because this is your monster board, and this was the one that's going to set up some walls for you. Yeah, that's basically what he's set up to do. And moving on, we have double Majesty's Maiden. This is actually very close to the OCG list. Majesty's Maiden searches basically any of your True Draco monsters when your opponent activates an effect. And that's it. 23 body, a bit higher defense than Dynamite Knuckle, the True Draco Fighter. This is the True Draco Mage. You can search basically every single monster in the deck if your opponent activates a card. Very simple stuff, and that's why it's very scary to actually play against this deck, especially when I go into the traps. And we're playing 1 Maria Moon, the True Draco Phoenix. She's like those True King monsters. She is a level 9 monster. And when she's destroyed by a card effect, you can add a non-win Worm-type monster from your deck to your hand. And of course, she has the ability to destroy 2 cards, including a win monster to summon herself out. And if both monsters are win, she can banish the top 4 cards out of your opponent's deck. So that's a pretty scary effect, but 90% of the time you're not going to get her effect off, but hey, she's still very useful, and she's one of your most ideal targets to pop with the field spell. And that basically covers the entire monster lineup. In my build anyways, there is one additional monster that I did not use, which would be Ignis Heat. Ignis Heat only searches for continuous spells when your opponent activates a card, and I'm also not using the True Draco General, Darius III, I can't remember his name. Not as effective as the other ones because I believe he only offers a protection effect, which I don't really need. So anyways, let's go on to the spell cards, which makes up basically the entire deck. So I play triple terraforming because I play a field spell. I also play triple Dragonic Diagram. So this is the most important card in the deck. Dragonic Diagram is the field spell. All True King and True Draco monsters gain 300 attack. And the first time each tribute summon monster, True Draco or True King monster, would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. So Utopia Lightning cannot run over your monsters for free. And once per turn, you can destroy one other card in your hand or you control. And if you do, add one True Draco or True King card from the deck to your hand. Basically, you can search your deck for any card you want because the whole deck is basically a bunch of True Draco, True King cards. And this card synergizes very well with the upcoming spell card, True Draco Succession. True Draco Succession is one of your main draw cards, and for good reason too. So for all your cards sent to the graveyard from field to graveyard, for every type that you send to the graveyards for monster spells or traps that are True Draco or True King, draw one card for each one. In other words, this one at base could be an upstart goblin, could advance itself to a pot of greed, or even better, if normally this doesn't happen, but unless you have multiple copies of the field spell, you can do multiple pops, turn this into a very solid triple draw, which is a little bit better than Pot of Greed. It is more like a card of demise with no restriction. Also, when this card is sent from field to graveyard, it acts as a MST. That's why the deck does not run any sort of spell trap removal, except for these guys. And it actually runs 6 spell trap removal because you have your own Daigusto Emerald. You have triple Disciples of the True Phoenix, or True Draco Phoenix. This one is literally Daigusto Emerald. Target 3 True Draco cards in your graveyard, or True King cards, and then shuffle them back into the deck and draw one card. Also offers the ability to tribute summon, just like this one. So you can activate it to perform a tribute summon on your turn. It only works during your turn, and well, that's basically it. If this card is sent to the graveyard, it acts also as an MST. So far so simple, right? And then of course the other spell cards, we have Triple Pot of Duality because we do not really special summon in this deck at all. So this gives you the ability to reach 3 cards further than in your deck. And then we also run Triple Pot of Desires, although I would consider that this is the worst pot in the entire deck because you are losing a ton of resources playing this, and you normally only want to resolve one. The additional ones, what you do with them is you set it or you just pop it in your hand through the field spell. Triple Card of Demise. If you don't want to play Card of Demise, you can alter the build to include Ignis Heat, Max C, and Hand Traps. Because I'm running Triple Card of Demise, I am not running Hand Traps because if I draw into the Hand Trap, they're actually dead draws through Card of Demise. So it's actually not very good. Careful note of Card of Demise is that you should choose it when you want to activate this, preferably main phase 2 if you want to deal damage, because you can't do damage and you cannot special summon using this card. Although the special summon clause doesn't affect you as much, but the damage one does because all your monsters are pretty beefy and you don't want to miss damage, because missing damage is the difference between getting game or basically losing the next turn. And I guess finally for my last spell slot, I'm using Monarch Stormforth. Okay, so Monarch Stormforth is a very, like all Monarch decks, it's very scary when your opponent uses against you, and this can be used during your opponent's turn like a Monarch deck thanks to the trap cards that I will go into, but you know how this card works. I just need to tribute summon. I can use this basically as my own version of a Kaiju. And of course it shuts me out of the extra deck special summon, but I don't care. I don't really use my extra deck special summons anyway. So let's go into the True King trap cards. The most important trap card, I would say, would be Revival of the True King. This guy is your infinite resource, infinite monster reborn. Of course, it has 2 hard once per turn clause. Well, technically 3 hard once per turn clause, which is if this card sent to the graveyard, pop a monster. Activate this card, target 1 True Draco or True King monster in your graveyard, and then special summon it back onto the field. Very simple stuff. Jace, basically a monster reborn, only in defense mode. Just bear in mind, only in defense mode, and for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters. So it doesn't matter if you have multiple copies, you can only use 1 anyway. And of course, all the trap cards, including the Apocalypse, all the trap cards are escalation of the Monarch. You can activate this effect, and immediately when it resolves, you can tribute cards on the field and then, well, perform a tribute summon. And because your True Draco monsters, it lets you tribute a spells and traps, well, you can tribute themselves off and kind of make your play. Or if you use Monarch Stormforth, that's one scary point about Monarch Stormforth, is that you will always be able to tribute off your opponent's monster, which is why Stormforth, although unlike OCG can play this at 3, we only have this at 1. If this card was at 3, it would be Monarchs all over again. And let's move this out of the way to move forward for Apocalypse with the True Draco. So the Revival revives monster. Apocalypse destroys one of your True Draco cards, which is quite important. Any of your face-up True Draco cards or True King cards, and it halves your opponent's entire board. This can be activated, I believe, during the damage step as well, because it is an effect that changes the stats. If you remove the monster during damage step, there is no recovery in damage calculation. It basically ends the battle as well. And it has the similar effect of doing tribute summons. Just bear in mind that the tribute summon clause is only during main phase. So don't think that you can go into a battle phase and then perform a tribute summon. You have to play this like Monarchs, play it very carefully like Monarchs. And set to graveyard, pop a card. And Triple D Barrier. This card, although very powerful, you will see it all the time. Mainly because, let's actually go through the deck. You know how this card works, I don't need to explain it. But if we look into all the draw cards available, let's see, deck thinners. Let's go into basically all the successions, all the draconic diagrams, all the True Dracos. So these are the cards that you will be wanting to dig for. You can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12. These 12 cards, all they do is just thin the deck, and this card, and most importantly, if you already got this card, you are already in a really good spot to begin with. And that's why the deck can run so little monsters, because a third of your deck is already basically just deck thinner, and it gives you additional cards as well. And if you play these monsters, they also thin out your deck even further. That's why the deck has insane consistency. And that's why this deck doesn't require an extra deck. In fact, other options that you can play in this deck include... So you can play Domain of the Monarchs. For the Stormforth slot, you can even play a copy of Max C. And you can even play Mind Control. Mind Control is a very just cheesy tech that I kind of enjoy using, because you can mind control your opponent's monster and then pop it with your field spell and then gain your search. Or if you actually take a Zodiac monster, and I'll go into the extract in a bit, you can actually just overlay on top of it. What are they going to do about it? But okay, so let's go into the extra deck. And I don't really want to go into the extra deck because half the time you're not going to use these cards, and these are just some options that I'm suggesting to you, and nothing more than that. Because if you want to play the Domain variant, then you don't have an extra deck at all. But I'm going to start off with some cheesy mind control tech, and this is actually to throw people off if they do kind of try to do something to you with these cards. Starting off with Borbo and Drident. Shark Fortress being a rank 5, giving you an OTK option. Volcasaurus is a burn and OTK option. Utopia Beyond to clear off the entire board's attack. And there's a rank 6, and you can easily perform rank 6s. You have Gauntlet Launcher for blowing up monster. M7 is also a very useful monster if you can get it off, because If you successfully revive your Dynamite Knuckle during your opponent's turn and you have 2, you can overlay into this card, detach 1 to add the Dynamite Knuckle back, or spin one of your opponent's card back to their hand, or one of their monsters. Gaia Charger for the overlaying on top of these cards. And that's the low ranks. And then for the high ranks, play it like Blue Eyes. We have Alcay, the Sylvan High Protector, Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter, Galaxy Eyes Full Armor, Galaxy Eyes, and Harbinger. And you can fill it with whatever you want, because half the time you're not going to use the extra deck. Trust me, with Card of Demise and half your draw cards closet, with half of your draw card clauses being that you can't special summon, it's going to be very hard to access these cards anyway. But if you do want to play an extra deck, then you can consider these. But seeing that Vanity's Emptiness is, no longer a card available, perhaps Domain will actually be able to shut out most of your matches. So this is the overview look of the entire deck. We have triple Masterpiece, triple Dynamite Knuckle, double Majesty's Maiden, and 1 Maria Mune, the True Draco Phoenix. And for spells, we have triple Disciples, triple Terraforming, triple Demise, triple Pot of Desires, triple Pot of Duality, and triple True Draco Succession. That's your draw lineup. And we have our field spell, which is Draconic Diagram, basically another search card. You have your triple Monster Reborn-esque, and you have your triple Shrink, and you have your Dimensional Barrier, and your one-off card that you can basically switch for any of these if you want. This, or even Ghost Ash, that would be pretty good too. That would be the deck list for you guys. And but I personally prefer this card because it isn't out to a lot of just problematic monsters in general. Let me just show you a couple of quick plays here of how to open with the deck. This is one of the basic boards that you can try to set up. It is quite annoying because a lot of times your opponent needs to go through multiple effects before their turn's combo can get actually properly set up. So when your opponent activates their first effect, you chain Dynamite Knuckle to the effect, and then you search your deck to trap the card that you don't have, and then you put it onto the field. You just activate it straight onto the field, nothing can be done about it. And then you would activate the Tribute Summon effect during the main phase, as soon as you can, to put out Majesty's Maiden. Now that Majesty's Maiden is on the field, if your opponent needs to activate another card effect, this is where you search your deck for Masterpiece or True Draco Phoenix if you need the Phoenix for the next turn and you don't feel the threat. Then you can activate the Revival of the True King. Depending on what you have, it doesn't really matter. You can activate it to revive one of your monsters. And if they're mid-combo with their monster, say a Zodiac combo midway, activate True King Revival for the Tribute Summon effect, sending one of your traps to the graveyard, preferably keeping the Revival of the True King alive because you can gain more pluses through this card. Send that to the graveyard, and then you tribute off the newly revived Dynamite Knuckle, and you summon up Masterpiece. This Masterpiece is now monster immune and trap immune, which is pretty useful if your opponent cannot deal with it this turn with spell cards, because you can actually ram into your opponent's back row now without any sort of repercussion. And of course, this card will activate to pop a card, and if you want to pop a second card, you can activate his effect to banish this trap card that was sent to the graveyard from his tribute and pop on the second card. So from just having one monster, one trap, now you have 2 monsters and a trap that basically revive more monsters, and your opponent is down 2 cards. It's not too bad. This is a basic combo. This is actually kind of a bad opening play if you actually get this. So in this example, I'm actually just going to play out a hand. So I've got 2 field spells, and this is actually a 2 field spell hand with True Draco Succession, Apocalypse, and Apollo Duality. This is basically, it's not that uncommon, but 2 field spell does put you in a really good spot, and this is what you can actually do with it. So starting off with Draconic Diagram, I'm going to activate it. And then I'm going to pop one of my cards, but before you pop it, be sure to set it. So I'm actually going to pop the trap card off the Draconic Diagram and destroy it. Okay, so that's destroyed, and I'll be able to search through the Draconic Diagrams effect. And I'm going to add myself a monster because that's one thing I do not have. I'm going to add Dynamite Knuckle to hand. And let's see what happens. Next up, I'm going to activate True Draco Succession. And instead of using the draw effect right away and turning this into Upstart Goblin, I'm going to activate the effect of True Draco Succession to Tribute Summon. So I'm going to tribute, I'm using the effect to tribute summon, so I still have my once per turn normal summon. I'm going to tribute this off and tribute summon for Dynamite Knuckles. So that's 2 cards sent to the graveyard. And finally, I am going to play over a Draconic Diagram. Activate Draconic Diagram to pop the Dynamite Knuckle. And just search another card. And the card I'm going to search this time is going to be True Dracos Succession. Now that all 3 have been sent to the graveyard, like, oh man, what a waste of cards, right? So now I've shuffled up. I shuffle up even more. But before I play True Dracos Succession, I want to try to dig a card with Pot of Duality, see what I can get. Terraforming is not bad. Oh, another card. PF Terraforming. That's not very good. And Majesty's Maiden. I am actually going to add the Maiden. One of these, I could go for Terraforming if I really wanted to, but that doesn't actually benefit me in any way. So I'm going to add myself a Majesty's Maiden. And now I'm going to activate True Dracos Succession. Activate Succession's effect to draw 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Well, I got the card anyway. That's not bad. That's actually really good since I got a card Demise. However, this card Demise, well, I'm kind of stuck with it. Well, not really. I'm going to activate the 3rd copy. This is actually over-greeding. You don't want to over-greed, but I'm going to demo it for your sake. Activate Draconic Diagram. Draconic Diagram effect to pop the Masterpiece. Into searching, there is a specific card to search, which would be Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix. Why Disciples? It's very simple, because you already popped enough cards to actually trigger the extra draw. So I'm going to add this to hand. I'm going to set this one. I am going to use my once per turn normal summon. Tribute off the Succession to normal summon this. Don't activate these effects if your opponent tries to bait you into activating it, because you can't pop your own cards. And now you can play Card of Demise. Draw 3 more cards. Oh look, it's going to be traps. Why is it going to be traps? Because, well, because you only drew spells for the last few turns, like the last few draws. Okay, well then I guess I can set this, and I already activated Pot of Duality, so I can set this. I'm going to activate this, activate Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix, and I'm going to target myself a couple of cards. I do have Revival, so I do want to leave 1 monster in the graveyard to revive, preferably the Masterpiece, because he's bigger. And so in my case, I'm going to put back a Succession, another Succession, and a Apocalypse. No, I'm going to go with Dynamite Knuckle, and then get an extra draw, because I actually want to keep monsters in here right now, because I want to draw another monster so that I can do a tribute summon to kind of dodge effects. But will I get that lucky? Ugh, no, I got into a Pot of Desires, so let's play Pot of Desires and banish the top 10 cards of my deck. 7, 8, 9, 10. And draw 2, another Pot of Desires, useless. Okay, so I am still under Card of Demise, but I can still set this and get rid of the Pot of Desires, mainly because the Pot of Desires, I don't want to play it again, so I don't mind this going to the graveyard. But seeing what I banished the other Dynamite Knuckles, a Monarch Stormforth, Card of Demise. You don't mind banishing draw cards at all, because at this point they're not very useful. You do want to keep in mind of what you banish outside of that. So I lost a True Draco Succession. I did lose double Dynamite Knuckle. I lost 1 Masterpiece. So I have 1 copy of this still left in the deck, and I have 2 copies of this left in the deck. And if I lose both of these, I have to be very careful. And otherwise, I'm not very punished by this Card of Demise. Overall, I went from nothing to opening this board, and my deck is now down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 cards left. If your opponent's playing the lawn mowing decks, you have to be extra careful. But you can pop most of their cards, and you don't have to be too scared. Next turn, you have tons of things to play. So this is me just going randomly at the deck. And this is actually pretty common to actually dig through your deck this fast. But there are occasional brick hands where you open 3 to 4 monsters, and that is a terrible brick hand. So anyways, that's a little demo play for you guys. Now, if you're going to be playing this archetype, please bear in mind that there are several things that you have to constantly keep track of, or else you'll misplay, and it could cost you the game. And this deck does allow a lot of open-ended plays for you, And first thing to be aware of is you have one normal tribute summon that doesn't require a chain. So the once per turn, your regular normal summon, that one's actually one of your most important, and it's the only one where you can actually set one of your continuous spells and traps and then tribute them off without your opponent kind of activating something to interrupt you. That's probably one of your most important things to pay attention to, because if you use it too early, you're not going to be able to use your other ones. And if your opponent can counter you, they will counter you at this point, because you will always have a window of opportunity where you're going to declare your tribute summon through a card effect and they can stop it. And you don't want that to happen to you. So just be careful, unless you have to use it to clear like double back row or something. Second thing is you have to pay attention to what you banish using Pot of Desire. That is very crucial to whether you win or lose the game. Sure, you're playing the Desire challenge where you hope that you don't lose too much, but even if you lose 2 copies of something, just please be aware of what you're losing, and don't use Masterpiece's effect to banish off all your Disciples of the Draco Phoenix, because then you actually lose the ability to cycle through your deck. And you gotta bear in mind, like if you lose all your traps, maybe your Dynamite Knuckle might not be as effective anymore. So there's a lot of little things that you have to pay attention to. And I mean, every single copy of your True Draco cards or True King cards, you have to count them, or else you will misplay or play yourself into a corner unintentionally. And of course, this is actually something that a lot of people do overlook, is that all these monsters, all the True Draco monsters, they only gain their effect if they are tribute summoned. So tribute summoned only. So if you do revive them from True King Revival, they don't have any effects. They do gain the attack boost as a True Draco monster or True King monster, but they don't gain the protection, and they don't have the chaining effects. And well, Masterpiece, obviously, if you revive them, you can't use the banish to pop a card effect. All these spell trap removal effects are hard once per turn. So Disciples of the Draco Phoenix, and then there's also True Draco Succession. If you tribute both of them, of course they'll chain on top of each other, causing like a chain lock of some sort. But if you do tribute 2 copies of the same card, it's not gonna work. Only one of them will go off and the other copy will basically... And finally, if you do play Card of Demise, because all these cards are optional, if you do play Card of Demise, bear in mind that you should choose your timing of Card of Demise very carefully, because after you activate Card of Demise, you can no longer do damage to your opponent. That's huge. If you can't do damage to your opponent, you could miss potential lethal, or maybe you were just only planning to clear the board. Then of course you can play Card of Demise early, but if you're gonna push for some damage, then you have to play it at main phase 2, preferably main phase 2. Unless it's your opening turn, then who cares? Like, get that massive plus. Now, if you're playing against the deck, there's several things that you should know and you should keep in mind. The first thing that you should pay attention to is whether or not you need to activate a card effect, especially when Dynamite Knuckle, Majesty's Maiden, or Ignis Heat are on the field. If any of those are on the field, just bear in mind that if you activate an effect, they will be gaining pluses. Ideally, if you are gonna make them activate an effect, well, make sure that you have Solemn Strike in the back to kill the monster, and you can use that as a method to bait them out. But if they do have Masterpiece on the field, however, just keep in mind of what Masterpiece has tributed before you Solemn Strike, because if you try to Solemn Strike a Masterpiece, if he did tribute a trap, yeah, that's not gonna work and you would have burned 15 on yourself. The second thing that you should do is that if you do play Kaijus or side Kaijus, Kaiju their monster first, like hands down, don't give them pluses. This is actually pretty basic, and it's one of the initial counters that most people would think of, is just throw Kaiju on their monster regardless. That's why a lot of people don't play the Dat Metatron, because it does require 3 tributes and the Kaiju can kill it. By using the Kaiju first, you kind of answer for the point 1 of, you're not trading effects with your opponent, so they won't gain the pluses. 3 is, don't use Twin Twister blindly. If you Twin Twister the back row blindly, think of their back row as all artifacts at this point, because they will trigger it and they will affect your field. The only time that you should blind Twin Twister even at all is when you have nothing committed to the board. If you have nothing committed, then it's fine, because they are not gaining any sort of advantage. However, you still could be minusing yourself if your opponent goes into flip a revival of the True King, which revives a monster, and then your Twin Twister, you still have to discard for cost. Might not be so effective. In fact, one of the best cards to play against them would be Cosmic Cyclone. Just banish the card altogether, because it removes fodder for Masterpiece to push up, to blow up your stuff. And you don't have to deal with the repercussion of the effect going to the graveyard. Number 4, kill off the field spell as much as you can. And for the True Draco player, keep your field spell alive as much as you can and use it every turn if you can. Mainly because the field spell basically lets you search for any card in the deck. You're basically playing against a stacked deck at this point because all the True Draco, True King cards have filled up most of the entire deck in terms of its engine. And being able to search any out and also fuel for True Draco Succession to turn it into like an Upstart Goblin, a Pot of Greed, or even a card of Demise. You don't want them to have 2 card demises per turn. So I think the best thing to do is to actually clear that, even though they can activate more. It's just unfortunate. This field spell is amazingly powerful, and it is actually central to a lot of people playing the engine as well. And 5, this one should be pretty obvious. Side out your 1 Max C and side out your D-Barriers. D-Barriers don't do anything to this deck. It is absolutely one of the worst dead draws. In fact, it is one of the reasons why this deck is also very good, because it puts 3 dead draws into your opponent's deck if you don't run the Max C. 4 dead draws if you do run the Max C and the Triple Barrier. And side it out for Imperial Order plus Master Restrict. If you do have Imperial Order plus Master Restrict, they should be dead because they have no way of tribute summoning, and they can't actually pop their spell cards to pop the Master Restrict, or even pop the other Imperial Order. So that's actually a pretty tough lock, but they do have an out. It's not a hopeless situation. If they do flip Apocalypse of the True Draco and then target one of the face-up spell cards, then they can actually out it, because Imperial Order does not stop the stuff that are not on the field. And finally, this is something that both players should be aware of so that the game state can stay clean and legal, is that there are several cards that can cause illegal gameplay to occur, and most frequently it would be Revival of the True King. Revival of the True King does not allow you to special summon after this card is activated. So for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon any monsters whatsoever. So this once per turn monster reborn type card it does have restrictions. And same with Card of Demise. Bear in mind that your opponent cannot use Card of Demise after they special summon, and that's something that I need to be a little bit more diligent about. This is something that's very easy to overlook because you're just trying to gain more and more combos. You just don't realize all these restrictions do take place in this deck, and you just make illegal plays accidentally. And for people, you don't want to get soft cheated, and you don't want to soft cheat other people. So let's actually look into some demo interactions.
So this is some behind the scenes practice of us learning the deck. So Oscar did get max seed in this board, and he's playing Zodiac, and he got stunned, so he was forced to go into a Dragon a bit early, and then it's my turn. I have to consider my plays very carefully here. He does have 1 back row, and this actually is something that will probably come up in the near future. So I set one of my True Draco spells face down, expecting to use it as a tribute and pop it off by tributing it off for a Dynamite Knuckle. Dynamite Knuckles, not using his effect, but the spell card in the graveyard is going to pop the back row. He chains this Dragon to pop the Dynamite Knuckle, and then I chain my Dynamite Knuckle, but then he immediately uses his Solemn Strike to pop it. In other words, I lost the cards immediately. Now in the second play here, I flip one of my cards face up because I know I have a Apocalypse of the True Draco, and Apocalypse of the True Draco can pop a True Draco card to half the board, but I need it 1 card face up ahead of time. And this is actually how we practice our games before we actually get the deck. So he normal summons out his Terror Top, and in this play he special summons out his Taketomborg, and when he special summons out the Taketomborg, I am going to chain and flip this card face up, which is the Apocalypse. That way Totem Bird cannot negate the activation of my effect. Although even if he did actually negate the activation of my Apocalypse of True Draco with his Totem Bird, it would be sent to the graveyard, and I will be able to actually pop a monster on board. So it could have worked out for me either way, because I still have my ability to actually pop one of my cards, and I don't really want to lose the Revival True Kings either. It could have went either way. But yeah, this is actually how we practice reading situations.
Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and maybe it'll give you a bit of insight on how to beat this deck online. What I am aware of is that YGO Pro Check main server still is bugged because you cannot search True King Revival. If you've been beating people with this deck right now, congratulations. You're beating them with a crippled deck, which also goes to show you how powerful this deck actually is. Just from the sheer number of monsters and the power of these monsters. If you guys like this video, please hit me up with a thumbs up. And thank Imperium Duelist for, sending in this beautiful map for me to actually make this profile on. And I've actually got some really special stuff coming up with Imperium Duelist about Masterpiece. If you guys know what I'm talking about, congratulations for, sticking with us on Facebook. But definitely check out Imperium Duelist. They got some really, really snazzy mats. I really like them. And as always, I'm gonna sign out right now. It's end phase.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, drop a like and hit the left button over here to subscribe. Or if you want to check out another video from us in the past, click here on the right. And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.